upon us, and preparation is key when making decisions for yourself and your family. Now, from the 3 News Weather Team, welcome to the 2022 Hurricane Season Special. Sponsored by Citco, Fueling Good.
Hello and welcome to the 2022 KIII Hurricane Special. I'm Alan Holt. As we gear up for the upcoming hurricane season, we want to help you prepare and share knowledge with you.
I'm Carly Smith, and we are going to shed some light on what to expect for the upcoming season.
I'm Kristen Wallett. We'll walk you through a trend we've noticed in the Gulf of Mexico the last few years, rapid intensification.
And I'm Mariah Gallegos. We also sat down with a husband and wife from Rockport and shared their Hurricane Harvey experience with you. Through their story, we'll share some lessons we've learned and key takeaways from their story.
We're going to start though with the basics. What is hurricane season? Well, it runs from June 1st to November 30th and peaks in mid-September.
Most of hurricane season takes place in the hot summer months, when sea surface temperatures are above 80 degrees and wind shear is lower in the tropics. June and July tend to begin slow, but it doesn't mean nothing can spin up. The waves are relentless. In late July 2020, Hurricane Hannah hit about 90 miles south of the coastal bend with tropical storm force conditions in Corpus Christi.
I will tell you, Bob Hall Pier took a beating this morning,
destroying Bob Hall Pier in the process. The bulk of activity happens in August and September, waning in October. The latest a hurricane has ever hit Texas is October 16th, twice. Hurricane Jerry near Galveston in 1989 and Hurricane number 5 hitting Corpus Christi in 1912. Both storms a Category 1.
To get a better idea of what to expect heading into a tropical season, we look at the El Nino Southern Oscillation Index, ENSO for short. This teleconnection can yield insight on how active or inactive a season may be, but not much on where storms may go once they do develop. The last few years, we've been in a very active period, and it's been La Nina for ENSO. La Nina happens when waters in the eastern Pacific Ocean are cooler than normal. This promotes less wind shear in the tropical Atlantic, Caribbean, and Gulf of Mexico. With less wind shear, tropical systems have a better environment to develop and thrive. Heading into this hurricane season, it's looking like a weak La Nina will be in place through the peak of hurricane season. So, we should expect another above average season in 2022. I'm always a little bit wary of giving a seasonal outlook because even if there's only one storm in a given season and that one storm happens to hit your location, it's an active season. Our 2022 KIII preseason tropical forecast is for an above average year. 20 named storms, that's tropical storm or greater, 9 of those reaching hurricane status and 4 reaching major hurricane status.
And as you can see, there's destruction up and down the beach.
When we talk about hurricane categories, we're referring to a storm's wind speed based on the Saffir-Simpson wind scale. When a storm is especially hazardous, it's labeled a major hurricane, as these are the most destructive and deadly storms. Hurricane Harvey was a Category 4 at landfall.
That means sustained winds are anywhere between 130 miles per hour and 156. According to the Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale, this was designed to estimate property damage based on wind speed and only wind speed. A Category 1 hurricane will begin to cause roof damage. Tree limbs may snap and there will be many power lines broken. At Cat 2, the winds are now 96 to 110 miles per hour. Major roof damage is likely, shallow trees begin to uproot, and there are more power outages. A Cat 3 is a major hurricane with sustained winds at least 111 miles per hour, and power may be unavailable for weeks. At Cat 4, Hurricane Harvey caused severe damage to well-built homes. Many saw power back within 2 weeks, but some went months without electricity. The most destructive, Cat 5 hurricane, will have wind speeds greater than 156 miles per hour. Well-built homes will be destroyed, roofs fail, and walls collapse. Expect to be without power for many weeks and even months. A fun fact about the Saffir-Simpson scale, Simpson was a Corpus Christi native. He surveyed the wind damage from Hurricane Celia in 1970 and used his findings to relate what wind speeds would cause what type of damage.
Storm surge is something that the Saffir-Simpson does not address. Storm surge is a rapid and aggressive rise in sea level as winds from a storm push waters inland, and this is the most deadly hurricane hazard. The larger the storm and the stronger the winds, the bigger the surge. Storm surge can destroy buildings and can rise to well over 10 feet above normal sea level. You add waves on top of that and waters can get even higher. That's what took out Bob Hall Pier during Hurricane Hannah back in 2020. The worst of a storm's surge is typically on the right front quadrant of a hurricane. Local topography can also play a critical role in how storm surge moves in. Another hazard that can accompany a tropical cyclone: tornadoes. These tend to develop in the outer bands of a storm, and often locations outside of a forecast cone can be impacted by a tropical tornado. These are not cut from the same fabric as the large and powerful twisters you can find in the plains during the springtime. Tropical spin-ups tend to be weak, short-lived, and rate EF 0 or 1 on the enhanced Fujita scale. Inland flooding is another hazard that comes with tropical systems. We saw how quickly heavy tropical rains can pile up in Houston and southeastern Texas several days after Hurricane Harvey had made landfall near Rockport. Some locations had up to 60 inches of rain in a day or two, which is an incredible amount of water, and those rains were the reason some people lost their lives.
You won't find Harvey on this or any other year's list of tropical cyclone names, as the name Harvey was retired in 2017 for being a deadly and costly storm. This year's list of names starts with Alex and ends with Walter. You may recognize some of the storm names on the list from previous seasons. If a storm name is not retired, it is recycled every 6 years.
I saw Gaston on the list. Hopefully that storm isn't as much of a pain as the character on Beauty and the Beast was. Coming up after this break, we're going to introduce you to and share the story of a couple who experienced Hurricane Harvey in Rockport back in 2017. That was 5 years ago. Stick with us.
Our 2022 Hurricane Special will continue right after this message from Citco.
My teacher was recommending STEM, TAME, all this stuff with science, engineering. I decided to take a look at it, and I found something that I actually really like.
Our teacher taught us all about this, like soldering and wiring, and so I actually got a lot more into electrical engineering, and I've learned a lot more. So hopefully, I know that will help me when I go into college.
It's really given me an opportunity to learn new things, and it's really opened my eyes into the engineering field.
You're watching our 2022 Hurricane Special, sponsored by Citco.
Heading into the 2017 hurricane season, it was like any other year.
Just trying to get a few sandbags to keep the water from coming in the house.
Preparing for the possibility of storms, preparing our homes. This year is the 5-year anniversary for the devastating hurricane that sent fear down the entire Texas coast.
You were dealing with an unknown.
David Mays is a firefighter with the Fulton Volunteer Fire Department.
When I left, I did not know if I was going to have a house to come back to.
Becky Mays is his wife. They sit together and reflect on what was going through their minds 5 years ago.
Expect the worst, hope for the best.
That's the mindset as residents prepared for Hurricane Harvey, the first major hurricane to make landfall along the Middle Texas coast since Celia in 1970.
Never been through anything that was potentially that big.
Keyword potentially. See, Harvey landed on a Friday, August 25th, but earlier that week, as Harvey moved over the warm waters in the Bay of Campeche, the National Hurricane Center forecasted to land along the Texas coast as either a tropical storm or a Category 1 hurricane.
So when you started warning and watching it grow, and that was kind of when we started ramping up our readiness.
Key tips when preparing your home: storm shutters and storm windows work best, but plywood cut to fit your windows will still work. Other ways to make your home hurricane ready include reducing possible debris by trimming trees around your house, securing loose items, and reinforcing garage doors. Inside the house, stock up on non-perishable food items and water. Make sure you have enough for the number of people in the home, and don't forget about your pets. Also, you should never run a generator inside your home. Have a fully charged portable charger to keep smartphones alive during power outages. That phone could be your only source of communication and information.
Within around 24 hours from early Thursday to late Friday night before landfall, Harvey transformed from a tropical storm to a Category 4 major hurricane.
It almost seems as if Harvey started a trend. 4 of the last 5 years have seen a hurricane rapidly intensify in the Gulf of Mexico and then make landfall along the Gulf Coast. These storms include Harvey, Michael, Laura, and most recently Ida. Before it was a Category 4 hurricane, Harvey was a tropical storm that dissipated in the Caribbean. 3 days later, Harvey's remnants crossed the Yucatan Peninsula into the very warm waters of the Bay of Campeche, where it reformed into Tropical Depression Harvey. Over the next 48 hours, Harvey underwent a period of rapid intensification from tropical depression to Category 4 hurricane and brought devastating impacts to the Texas coast. So, what is rapid intensification? Rapid intensification is an increase in the maximum sustained wind speeds of a tropical cyclone of at least 30 knots or 34 miles per hour in a 24-hour period, essentially increasing in intensity by at least 1 category in the span of a day. It doesn't just happen at random. We need the right ingredients like moisture, deep warm waters, and low wind shear.
My thought while being here is like whatever happens, happens. We just have to do what we have to do.
While David made the decision to stay at the fire department with fellow firefighters, his wife decided to move to a safer location, more inland.
Unplugged as many things as we could and just secured our home as good as we possibly could, and left.
To evacuate or to stay, it was a decision many in the coastal bend were faced with.
It was scary. It was very scary.
Hurricane Harvey made landfall near the Rockport-Fulton area, bringing a storm surge of 6 to 10 feet of water to nearby places.
But it moved houses off their foundations into the middle of the streets.
For most of the coastal bend, Harvey was mainly a wind event. Storm surge did rise to between 7 and 8 feet above sea level on the west side of Copano Bay and as high as 12.5 feet near Aransas Bay, causing significant structural damage and flooding. As Harvey made landfall, wind gusts were up to 145 miles per hour.
And probably never forget the noise. Matter of fact, if a high wind comes up and we're hearing things like that, you know, it brings back the memories. Was the cell phone tower over here behind us in the town yard. It sounded like a jet was hovering right over us for hours.
One of the most frequent questions we're asked when a tropical storm or a hurricane is nearby or if one is approaching the coastal bend is, do I need to board up my windows? Well, the answer to that isn't as cut and dry as it may seem, so we went out to Whataburger Field and enlisted the help of the hooks and Evans glass to demonstrate what a window can withstand.
So this window that you see behind me is our standard residential window. They're very common here in Corpus Christi. They can usually withstand about 45 miles an hour.
You might see and get objects like this flying around off of trees or maybe in your yard. These can be debris, projectiles. We're gonna test that against the window right here to see how much just a standard window pane can take with something like this. We were having some trouble with the radar gun. It didn't really pick up the speed of the branch thrown, but we estimate it to be around 30 to 40 miles per hour, which is obviously enough to shatter untreated, unprotected glass.
We're inside and we're trying to test hurricane force winds. I've got a stronger piece of glass this time. What makes this glass different than what we saw outside?
So this window right here is our hurricane rated window. Essentially you have 3 pieces of glass along with a piece of vinyl.
If we throw the ball at the glass, how's the glass going to react? What's that process?
So the exterior window on here from this hurricane rated window it's 1/4 inch tempered, which is 5 times stronger than your annealed glass. That will help slow down the foreign objects of hitting the interior piece, which is the laminate side, and that will prevent anything at 145 miles an hour of going inside your home.
Well, none of us can throw anything 145 miles per hour, but we decided to give it our best shot to see if we could break the reinforced glass. Some better than others. 65 miles per hour, no dice. So we turned to the pitching machine. 90 miles per hour, nope. All right, all the way up. How about 113? No again. We've learned that there is a gray area between about 50 and 80 mile per hour wind speeds that untreated windows may not be able to withstand. Debris is unpredictable, and as it starts flying around, panes of glass that are more fragile, untreated, or uncovered could fail if a piece of debris hits it. Once winds climb to 80 miles per hour, that's low-end Category 1 hurricane force, untreated windows will start to fail from wind force alone. We recommend boarding up at 80 miles per hour, but you've got to understand that an unprotected window could fail if debris hits it with wind speeds as low as 50 miles per hour.
This got picked up by the wind, and it might have been a small tornado, which we had hundreds of them around here. Went airborne and came through our north end of the building up by the top gables. When that happened, we now had wind coming in. And when the wind came in, it started making this building breathe.
At this point, Harvey's eye wall is approaching Rockport, and they're seeing the strongest wind beating down on the fire station. What likely brought the metal pipe into the station was a mesovortex within the eye wall. Mesovortices are small areas of rotation within the eye. These are common among well-organized strong hurricanes like Harvey. They can produce areas of stronger wind gusts within the eye wall. Typically, the storm weakens as it travels over land, but seeing these mesovortices suggests Harvey was tapping into soil moisture and the moisture across Aransas Bay and Copano Bay. And the latest GHOST satellite, launched in 2016, helps us see these features.
As things started becoming more intense, David and his crew decided to move to a more sturdy structure, not knowing if there was one even out there.
Getting there, we didn't know if it was still there either. We didn't know what we were walking into, but we knew we had that 20 to 30 minutes to go hope for a safer place to be.
Walking into the unknown in a pitch black night, power was out. Only the lights on their truck helping guide the way.
It was hard to fathom what we saw and what little we could see and what we were going to wake up to come sun up the next day. You know, we knew it was going to be a lot of work, and we knew we had our hands full.
As winds continued through the night, loud noises kept the firefighters, including David, in and out of sleep.
Yes, you had to force yourself to do it. Oh, we got outside and we went to work. That was once the winds calmed down, because they went on for 12 hours, 13 hours?
By sunrise the next day, residents stepped outside and witnessed the damage of their town for the first time. We'll continue what that looked like after this quick break.
Don't go away. There's more important hurricane information right after this message from Citgo.
Our goal of providing energy starts with you. The Corpus Christi refinery alone has been part of our mission for over 80 years. So it's our job to take care of the people who make it all possible. When Corpus Christi needs a helping hand, we are there. Volunteering, cheering, and just being good neighbors. It's how we meet our goals while meeting the needs of our community. At Citgo, that's fueling good. What does it mean to fuel the future? To us, it's providing products that power the lives of our community and reaching out to help our neighbors thrive. STEM education programs, community outreach, and so much more. At Citgo, That's fueling good. At Citgo, we know safety helps our community thrive. It's a value that touches every part of our business. From ensuring safe operations at our Corpus Christi refinery to helping with emergency preparedness and disaster relief, we do all we can to support the people who matter most. Neighbors like you. At Citgo, that's fueling good.
You're watching our 2022 Hurricane Special, sponsored by Citgo.
We went to work immediately, helping to get the roads cleared off to where we could start doing our search. We built our groups and we split up and started walking.
Debris made it difficult to travel anywhere. Power lines were down, restricting people from calling others just to confirm their safety.
For 2 days, I did not know if he was alive or dead. I did not know anything.
Houses ripped apart, tree limbs scattered. It took days before some residents knew if they still had a home.
There weren't any living conditions here at the time. No food, there was no water. Of course, no air conditioner. None of the comforts were all gone. No power, no nothing. So, and of course, really no medical. It was primitive. It was primitive living there for quite a while.
Days, years later, the cities of Fulton, Rockport, and others along the coast continue to repair what was lost in the Hurricane Harvey devastation. For David and Becky Mays, as they enter another hurricane season, they enter with the history of knowing what could happen.
It makes me appreciate him. It makes me appreciate our time, because you never know, we could have a hurricane tomorrow and the outcome may be completely different.
Now is the time to prepare. If you choose or are mandated to evacuate, you'll want to make sure you're stocked with any necessary medications or medical items you need on a daily basis. It also doesn't hurt to have some cash on hand. After tropical system, ATMs and electronic forms of payment may not be working if the power is out. You can sign up for your local reverse alert system to get the latest information on evacuations and city preparations in your area.
If you're going to evacuate when called upon, which route are you going to take? And then where are you going to go? And if you're going to go to a hotel and you have a pet, make sure it's pet friendly.
Billy Delgado is the Emergency Management Coordinator with Corpus Christi. He says it's also important to have that evacuation plan now.
Port Aransas evacuates through the city of Corpus Christi. We want to make sure they get out with high-profile vehicles. We evacuate by zones.
There are 5 evacuation zones within Corpus Christi city limits: A1, A2, A3, B, and C. It's important to know which zone you live in going into this hurricane season.
Don't wait for your zone. If you want to get out, get out.
Be sure to have a couple of plans based on the different storm paths. During Harvey, evacuating to Houston would not have been wise. That's where inland flooding caused the most damage and resulted in the most deaths during Hurricane Harvey. I-37 is not the only way out. Know all those possible routes.
Let's say a hurricane is on the coastal bend's doorstep. Where you evacuate to depends on where the storm is going. Knowing what roads to take is a crucial part of every evacuation plan. If a hurricane is headed to the north, you'll want to go south or west, away from the coast. The major roads to consider are taking highways 77, 281, 44, and 359. If a hurricane is headed to the south, you'll need to go north. Consider using Interstate 37 or highways 281, 77, 181, and 44. Don't forget that during evacuations, a 3-hour drive can easily turn into a 5 or 6-hour drive due to traffic. Stick around, we'll have some final reflections after this break.
You're watching our 2022 Hurricane Special, sponsored by Citgo.
When my teacher was recommending STEM, TAME, all this stuff with science, engineering, I decided to take a look at it, and I found something that I actually really like.
Our teacher taught us all about this, like soldering and wiring, and so I actually got a lot more into electrical engineering, and I've learned a lot more. So hopefully, I know that will help me when I go into college.
It's really given me an opportunity to learn new things, and it's really opened my eyes into the engineering field.
You're watching our 2022 Hurricane Special, sponsored by Citco.
Welcome back. Remember, all tropical cyclones are unique. They're like people, all with different personalities and traits, impacting the areas they strike very differently. No two storms are the exact same. Some of them have large, low-end hurricane-force wind fields coupled with a very large storm surge. Others can be small in size but pack walloping winds and very little storm surge. Just like every storm is different, the way that you prepare for a storm will also be different. You should not be using the experience you had with one storm and apply that to all storms. For example, because Harvey did something, that doesn't mean that every storm to move through this region in the future will do the exact same thing. While we're on the Harvey topic, another thing about that storm, I don't think a lot of people fully understand in Corpus Christi how close that storm came to being a much more devastating scenario as it moved through. A shift just 10 to 15 miles to the south would have put Corpus Christi in the crosshairs of 100-mile-per-hour winds. As you prepare yourself and your family for the upcoming hurricane season, understand that there is not a one-size-fits-all method of preparation. Will you have to board up? Are you responsible for somebody else? How old are your kids? What about the pets and their food and water? There is no way to capture every possible preparedness scenario in a 30-minute hurricane special, but if we're able to raise awareness to maybe one thing that you hadn't thought of before watching this, well, it's a win for us.
And we know it can be scary heading into a time of unknown. Remember though, we're here for you online and on air.
Be sure you're keeping up with the most up-to-date forecasts from us. Check our social media, KIII-TV.com, or tune in to First Edition 5, 6, or 10.
And if you haven't already signed up for your local reverse alert, do it now. It will keep you updated with what the city is doing.
Well, we're about done with this. We hope you've enjoyed the 2022 edition of the KIII Hurricane Special. Remember the mantra that we always use around here, it only takes one.
Protecting yourselves and others. You've been watching the 2022 Hurricane Season Special from the 3 News Weather Team, sponsored by Citco, fueling good. From all of us at KIII 3 News, we thank you for watching and stay safe.
My teacher was recommending STEM, TAME, all this stuff with science, engineering. I decided to take a look at it, and I found something that I actually really like.
Our teacher taught us all about this, like soldering and wiring, and so I actually got a lot more into electrical engineering, and I've learned a lot more. So hopefully, I know that will help me when I go into college.
It's really given me an opportunity to learn new things, and it's really opened my eyes into the engineering field.
There are a lot of issues impacting the lives of South Texans right now. COVID, vaccinations and boosters, healthcare, elections and government, increasing crime, business and jobs, finances, education, and of course, our weather will be changing quickly. So when you need a news team to cover the good and not so good, from morning until night, stay with a station that's always been there for you. 3 News, known and trusted. Don't miss out. Scan the square. It's all right there. Scan our